Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi with GoMakeThings.com, and we are here with part 3 of our series where we are building a modern web app using vanilla web components from scratch. At this point, we now have a web app, Pick at Random, that allows you to add items to a list and then pick one of them at random. So I've been using fruit as an example here, but we're going to say orange, apple, strawberry, and let's say pineapple, if I can spell that right. Cool. And then I want to pick one of them to eat. Let's pick, okay, we got pineapple, strawberry, orange. I can remove items from the list. We get notified when things happen. And we have screen reader support built in on all of these. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be setting up our web component so that different aspects of it can be customized. This is the kind of thing that you can typically do with an old school DOM manipulation library, and I'm going to show you how to do it with web components. Real quick, before we dive in, if this sort of topic is interesting to you and you want to see more of it, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below. That helps me know that you're interested in this, and also YouTube's algorithm likes it, so it shares it with other people, and that helps this channel grow. Also, real quick, just before we dive in, I want to let you know that if you enjoy this sort of thing and you want more deep dives like this, the Lean Web Club is my coaching, courses, and coding resources learning platform, and through the end of this week, I am running a Summer of Learning sale where if you sign up, you get 1 month free and then 30% off for the next 3 months after that. If you sign up for a whole year, you get 30% off for that whole year. If you get a lifetime membership, you get 30% off the whole thing. So the longer you subscribe, the more you save. Cool. With that out of the way, let's dive in. So we are going to jump over to the source code, and I'm going to show you real quick how I have this set up. Right now, everything's in one file. I've received some comments asking how we might decouple all that stuff, and I'm going to show you what that all looks like as part of this video as well. But the heart of this app is the Pick at Random custom element. We are using the custom elements define method to define our custom element and turn it into a web component. Inside the constructor, I'm creating a unique ID for the current component. And I'm generating a form, a list, a button to pick items, and an element that we're going to render our status into. And then I'm grabbing a bunch of those elements and caching them as properties just so that we don't have to go hunting for them later. I add some event listeners, and then I also have a function here to load items from local storage. This is one of the things we're going to need to customize because right now, saving and pulling things out of local storage is using the same ID each time. So if you had more than one of these custom elements on the page, they would wipe each other out or conflict. In fact, let me just show you real quick what that looks like. So if I were to add another item and save here, you can see we've got 2 items, and I can remove from them individually. But if I reload the page, so here, right, we're going to go, we'll say, wow, I can't type. We're going to go apple and banana. And if I reload the page, now those items are in this second one as well. That's not what we want. We want these decoupled. So we're going to look at one way to do that this week. Next week, we're going to look at a different way to approach that same problem. But this is going to be part of the customization. And then we've got just all of your normal kind of DOM manipulation stuff. A bunch of event handlers, some things to clear the whole list, remove individual items, create new list items, and so on. And if you want to see how all of this works in detail, jump back to last week and the week before, and you'll be able to see kind of the whole series. So with that out of the way, let's talk customization. So the very first thing I'm going to do is, because we're going to be loading this on multiple pages now, I'm going to do the thing that people have been asking me from the start. I'm going to pull this into its own script. So here, actually, there's an even easier way to do this. Let's be super lazy. So we're going to jump over to the Pick at Random directory here. We've got our little index file. So let me duplicate this. We're going to call this, we'll go pick at random.js. Yes, let's use JS. And then you know what? We're going to duplicate it again and we'll have pick at random.css, right? We'll just keep everything kind of all in one spot. So let's go in here and we will, yeah, here, we'll just, for now, normally this would be part of like a broader design system, but for simplicity, I'm just going to keep it all in one place. So we'll go like this, save it, cool. And then we've got our CSS file. We can strip out all the stuff except for the CSS. I mean the JavaScript rather. We will do this, and then outdent, and cool. So now in our index file, we can scrap all this, and we can say source equals pick at random.js, and then we're going to do the same thing with our CSS here. We will ditch this, and we will say link, and that's going to be pick at random.css. So now we've still got all our stuff here. Everything still works. We just have it pulled out into an external file. We will talk about some different ways to do this in a minute. But so we've got kind of our out-of-the-box stock implementation. Let's say you wanted to have a different version of this, though, right? Like a who's driving kind of version. Let me open this up. We'll zoom in a little bit here so that's easier to see. So in this particular iteration, I'm going to want different stuff. I might want, maybe this is to pick a designated driver, right? So we're going to say pick who's driving. And I'm not going to want this to say add an item. I'm going to want to say add a name. I'm definitely not going to want to pull the local storage references from the other app. Like we don't want that. So let's start. We're not going to do some cleanup. We'll sort this out in a second. Even things like the labels and what gets shown when you add an item, right? So let's say like Steve, right? Steve isn't bad add to the list. That's fine. Pick an item. You picked orange. I might want this to say something like Steve is driving, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to remove all the items here. So let's dig into how we actually customize that. All of the magic for this is going to happen in the JavaScript file, naturally. So the way this works in web components is it's all attribute driven. In a traditional JavaScript library, let me just give you an example, right? You might have like a new pick at random kind of class, right? Where you pass in a selector that this stuff is all going to get rendered into and you're going to instantiate the behavior on. And then you might have an object of properties, right? Like in this case here, let's jump over and take a look here, right? So it might be like label, button, button add, button pick, button remove, right? That kind of thing, right? So you might have things like label, add driver, and button add driver, stuff like that. In a web component, all of these shift to the element itself, and they become attributes that you can grab from. So we're going to start in our file here. So we're going to define, we'll say define component properties, and we are going to get a bunch of these things. We don't even necessarily, now that I think about it, have to define. Well, no, we might want to because we might want to reuse them in other places. So let's define them as properties because some of them will need to get used elsewhere. So we'll save them as properties. But let's look at all of the different items here, and we're going to replace them with properties. So I'm going to have this label text equals, and just by default, I'm just going to grab the things that are already here, and I'll show you how we replace them later, right? So we'll say this label text. We've got the add button text, right? So this Button add text equals. I'm being really verbose with my names. That's just a thing I like to do. I think it makes things easier to reference and understand. Let's see. So then we've got button pick text, right? So we will go this button pick text equals. And we're going to just do this for all of our items here. So we'll come in and we will say this button pick text and button remove, right? So this button remove text equals, and we'll do the same exact thing here. So this, it does help if you type it right, button remove text. Cool. And then one other thing we are going to need is the result. We're going to look at that one in just a minute. So for starters, we've got, we've replaced all of these with property values that we've defined here. And if I jump over to the browser, you can see everything shows up. I want the ability to customize those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define attributes that we use for each of these things, and we can add them to our custom element. If they exist, we'll use them. If we don't, we'll fall back to what we already have. So for example, let's say we want label text equals, and we're going to say it's add an item. So we're going to say add a driver, button add. So we'll say button add equals add driver, button pick text, button pick equals pick a driver, and, or you know what, pick, let's say choose a driver, and button remove text. So we will say, let's add one more here, button remove equals remove or remove all drivers. Cool. So right now, nothing will look different because we've got these attributes here, but we're not actually doing anything with them. But we can change that. So in here, we can say this get attribute. And in this case, it's we got label text. And I'm just going to start with the 1 just so you can see it. So we've got add a driver. But over here, it's still add an item. So we're falling back to, this is the original, just pick at random, and then we've got pick who's driving. So here we're showing the customization. This one is just falling back to the defaults. So we're going to want to do this for each of these items. So let me be lazy and copy paste this in a bunch of places. Boom, boom. And then we will say button add, button pick, button remove. Now, one of the questions I get all the time about this is why I am not prefixing these with data. So why I am using just plain old custom attributes. You absolutely could say data, label text, data, button add. In a deviation from what I normally do, I've grown to dislike the verbosity of doing that on custom elements. Because web components lean so heavily on attributes for customization, and because the element itself is already custom, you're basically creating this new thing. I really like to have custom attributes on those as well. It will fail an HTML validator, but JavaScript, CSS, and the browser will all handle it just fine. As a safety feature, it's a good idea to use attribute names that have a dash in them because most browser native attributes are single word, just like most browser or all browser native elements are single word. So having that dash kind of signifies that this is a custom thing and not a browser native thing. Maybe protects you from future name collisions a little bit. So that's why I do that. We have all of our labels in place. I'm going to save this as well, and then I am going to reload the page. That's the wrong page. Reload the page. And now you can see we've got add driver, choose a driver, remove all drivers. So we can go like Steve, Lucy, Daryl, Jeremy. I don't know, I'm just adding some random names here. And then if we choose a driver, you pick Jeremy. So this is the one last piece that we probably want to customize, right? So Lucy has been removed. Daryl has been removed. That's fine. I'd like to be able to have this say something different. So let's take a look at how that works. Oh, actually, one other thing too. If we remove all drivers, it just wipes them out. Okay, so there's no extra message there. All right, cool. So we don't have to worry about that. I don't know why in my head I thought there was another announcement. Cool. So here's where this is happening. Has been added to the list. So we're going to, no, that's not the one. It is, you picked. Here we go. So we're going to do this result text equals this get attribute result text, and then I should have kept that open. Let's scroll down. Where is it? You picked. So the way we're going to do this, we are going to, we're going to do this. So, I used to, basically what we're doing is we're putting a placeholder in a text string that we can replace. So I used to use like a handlebars-esque kind of format here with the double curly brackets. One of the things I found is that sometimes when you run JavaScript through, or not the JavaScript rather, but the HTML through certain build systems, they have their own thing that uses the double curly brackets and they replace it. And we don't want that to happen. So I've taken recently to using template literal style with the $ curly brackets. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab this string and replace this with our value using the string replace method. So if we jump back over to this section, instead of using a template literal like we are now, let me just copy this and drop it below for a second. So we're going to have, we're going to say this, what did I call it? Result text. There we go. So this result text replace, and then we're looking for pick, and we're going to replace it with item 0. So we'll jump over here again, and let's say Jeremy, Steve, Judith, Caroline. Doesn't matter. We just got a few names in there. So you picked. So you can see this is still working just like it did before, right? You picked. But if we want to customize it, which we can do with the result text attribute, we can jump over here and we can say result text. It does help if you type it correctly. Result text equals, and here we will go pick is driving, exclamation point. So now we've got Steve is driving, Judith is driving, Caroline is driving. But if we jump back over to our old pick at random, which you can see is preloading those names, which we don't want, we will fix. It's using the old you picked format. So one last thing with the customizations here. Let's change the way we're saving this in local storage. So I am going to, I'm going to add one more property here, right? Which is, we're going to call it saved ID. And this is going to be this get attribute save ID. And let's make this consistent. Save ID, save ID. And we are only going to do this, like we're not going to have a fallback. So if the user doesn't provide a save ID, we're not going to do anything. And so the idea here is that we could do something like save ID equals, again, I keep doing equals, save ID equals drivers. So this is the unique ID for saving this stuff into local storage. And now I need to do a hunt for all the local storage stuff. So anywhere that I'm actually doing local storage, here we go. Local storage, local storage, local storage. So if there is no this save ID, we're going to return. This is going to be a pattern everywhere. So we're only going to do local storage things if there's a save ID to use. And then I just want to make sure these are the only places where we've got local storage dot. Okay, it's just in these 3 places. Great. So if there's no save ID, we do nothing. Otherwise, we're going to do this save ID. And we're going to do this for all of them. So we're still going to use the pick at random prefix, and then we're going to use that save ID that was provided as part of the selector. So if I reload this, you'll see nothing loads now. Nothing loads because we don't have a matching right now. So if I were to jump over and look at local storage, you will see that we still have this thing, but it's pick at random, and we're now looking for pick at random dash driver. So that's why this stuff isn't showing up. But so let's go ahead and I'm going to type back in Jeremy, Steve, Judy, Caroline, and I've got pick at random drivers now with those names. And we can actually just delete this one entirely out of here. If I reload the page, they show up. I can pick drivers. I can remove drivers, and the list gets updated. If I jump over here to this one, I've got nothing. And if I were to add like apple, orange, banana, nothing happens here because I have not defined a save ID. So now saving is tied specifically to that ID. We avoid name collisions. So looking good. We are nice and customized, and we have everything kind of broken up. The one last thing that I get asked a lot is how you would handle these with ES modules. So let's open up the other one too. We're going to do this just a little bit differently. So often with an ES module, you need to, let's just do a different script here for a second, right? So we're going to say script type equals module, just so that we can do this. And so in here, you would import, some method names, right? So we're going to say function 1, function 2 from some script file, right? Like this, and then you would do things with them. With web components, because they automatically instantiate themselves, and whenever you add appropriate elements, they just run and do their thing. We don't need to import any sort of named thing. So what I like to do is have each of my web components as its own standalone, standalone file. And I don't even need to change this file at all. So if I wanted to use this as a web component instead of as a traditional script, all I have to do is import the script. So in this case, I'm going to import pick at random.js. And this is what's called a side effects only module. So because this thing is automatically running, my custom elements define method, I don't have to export anything. I don't have to import any specific methods. I just import the file and it runs. Now, the one problem here, I can't demonstrate this for you unless, actually, hold on. So we can make this work. You need to spin up a server in order for this to work. So I'm going to create a folder that I can bump into, and I'll go up one level. Cool. So let's spin up a server just so you can see this in action. So if we were to go localhost 8000, cool. So you can see everything is kind of running here. And if we were to go orange, banana, apple, and we can pick an item. And so it's working. without me having to explicitly import any functions. So if you're ever wondering like, oh, how do I use ES modules with web components? This is it. You treat them as a side effects only function or script rather. You import the entire thing. You don't have to export anything. And the cool thing about this is you can use it either way. So now I can use it as an ES module, or if I prefer, I can use it as a traditional script. And like I'm doing here, and everything just kind of works. So that's it for today. Next time, I am going to show you a different way that we can handle saving and loading data into our web component that decouples that piece from the component entirely. So it becomes a thing that developers can code in themselves if they want. It's a technique I like to use a lot with these types of scripts because they often get used in ways that I wouldn't have thought of or planned for. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below. If you have any questions, ask away. If you have a topic for a future video, I would love to hear them. And if you found this kind of thing interesting and you want to learn how to do more of this yourself, and you're not already a member of my Lean Web Club, now is a great time to sign up because I'm running an awesome sale that ends this week. So please do go check that out over at leanwebclub.com as well. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Cheers.